A parent never thinks their child will become their executioner. That's why, when my own son's hands pressed into my back and sent us plummeting into the abyss, my mind refused to believe it. Yes, our flesh and blood pushed us off a cliff. But the fall itself was not the most terrifying part. No, the moment burned deepest into my soul was my husband's broken whisper as the world spun around us. Pretend we are dead. The night had begun so quietly, almost beautifully. Richard and I had gone for what we thought was a peaceful walk near the cliffs overlooking the valley, a place we had always loved. My husband and I often went there to clear our heads, to remind ourselves of the world's vastness. This time, Adam had driven us. He insisted, even suggested it. "Fresh air will do you good," he said. His tone was calm. Too calm. But I didn't notice. What mother looks for danger in her son's voice? The cliffs glowed silver in the moonlight. The breeze was cool against my skin. I even smiled as I reached for Richard's hand. Then, suddenly, Adam was there, behind us. No warning. No hesitation. Just a violent shove. The air tore from my lungs as my feet left solid ground. The sky, the rocks, the water, all blurred in a dizzying whirl. In that instant, I saw his face. No anger. No grief. Only emptiness. Why? That single word screamed inside me as jagged stone slammed into my ribs, slowing my fall but filling my chest with fire. Richard hit the rocks nearby with a sickening crack, his arm twisted unnaturally. We lay broken, half hidden among shadows. I wanted to call out, to let Adam know we are alive. But then Richard, bleeding from the forehead, turned to me and rasped with the last breath he could muster, "Pretend we are dead." At first, I didn't understand. Why pretend? Wouldn't Adam rush down in horror once he realized what had done? Surely he had not meant it. Surely, crunch. Crunch. Footsteps above. Adam. I froze. Richard's grip on my hand tightened, warning me into silence. Pebbles rattled down as Adam leaned over the edge. My heart hammered so loudly I was certain he'd hear it. Then his voice. Cold. Detached. "It's done. Done. Like we're chores checked off a list. Like we're nothing." And then another voice. A stranger's. "Are you sure? They won't survive that?" I held my breath. My son's reply carved into me like a blade. "Even if they did, they will wish they had not. Do you know what it feels like to hear your child, your baby, dismiss your existence as though you were disposable? To listen to him assure someone else that your death is final, and worse, meaningless?" I lay there, the world tilting, my chest burning, my spirit breaking. The boy who once cried over a lost dog, who once begged for a night light because of shadows, had become something unrecognizable. Was this really Adam? Or had we missed the signs all along? The footsteps faded, swallowed by the night. Still, Richard held me down, his whisper echoing, "Don't move." Hours dragged. My body screamed to crawl, to breathe, to do anything but lie there. But stillness was survival. Pretending was survival. And as I lay motionless, a memory returned. 3 weeks earlier, Adam had asked us a strange question at dinner. "Mom, Dad, if something ever happened to you, would you want to know? Or would you rather just go quickly?" We laughed it off. Richard even joked that his cholesterol would take him quicker than anything else. But now, that moment replayed like a warning we had not understood. The night deepened. Shadows stretched over the rocks, the cold gnawed up my bones. Richard drifted in and out of consciousness, and I pressed my lips to his ear, whispering, "We were alive. We will survive this. We have to." But survive for what? To confront Adam? To uncover the truth? Or to carry the unbearable knowledge that the child we loved had wanted us gone? By dawn, golden light spilled across the valley. To me, it looked like a graveyard, our graveyard, if Adam had his way. I knew Richard was right. We could not let Adam know we had survived. Not yet. Not until we understood why. So we lay there a little longer, breathing shallow, our silence louder than any scream. And here's what I will leave you with. If your own child looked you in the eye and sent you to your death, would you still call him your son? Or would you wonder, as I did, whether something darker had stolen him from you long before that night at the cliff? Because betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes, it comes from the ones you thought would love you forever. And ours had only just begun. Silence. That's what I remember most after the fall. Not the crack of bone, not the taste of blood, not even Adam's voice drifting down from above. No. It was the silence that wrapped itself around me like a shroud. Do you know the kind of silence I mean? The heavy kind. The kind that doesn't comfort you but crushes you. The kind where even your own heartbeat feels like a betrayal, pounding too loudly, daring someone to notice you are still alive. I lay there, my body broken, the cold of the rock seeping through my skin, my hand clutching Richard's as if our grip alone tethered us to this world. And through that silence, a single question pulsed inside my mind like a wound. Why would our son do this to us? At first, I told myself it had to be an accident. A stumble. A clumsy push. Maybe Adam had not meant it. Maybe, just maybe, I would misread everything. But then, those words came back. Words that cut sharper than any blade. It's done. Even if they did, they will wish they had not. Those were not the words of a son who made a mistake. Those were the words of intent. Cold. Final. And worse, they were not spoken to himself. He would said them to someone else. Another voice. Another presence. Another shadow in our story. I shifted slightly, biting back a groan as pain exploded through my ribs. Richard stirred beside me, his voice a rasp, faint but steady. Don't move. But, not. Yet. His grip tightened on my hand. His tone fierce despite his weakness. So I stayed still. Every instinct screamed at me to crawl, to run, to fight. But instinct would not keep us alive. Obedience to silence would. I stared upward, toward the edge of the cliff we had been shoved from. From there, I had once admired the way the moonlight touched the valley. Now, I watched only with terror, afraid Adam's shadow would return. And in that stillness, my thoughts began circling, like vultures over carrion. Who had he been talking to? A friend? A stranger? An accomplice? Or was it worse, someone we trusted? Hours crawled by. The sun rose higher, spilling gold into the valley. The silence didn't lift, it only grew heavier, pressing down on us. I tried to anchor myself in small details, the way the grass swayed on the cliff edge, the warmth of Richard's bloodied hand in mine, the faint trickle of water somewhere far below. But always, my thoughts returned to Adam. Where was he now? Had he gone home? Was he laughing, celebrating, relieved that his parents were gone? Or would he come back, just to make sure? The thought chilled me. What if Adam climbed down, searching, hunting? What if he found us breathing? Richard must have felt my panic. His voice rasped again, a whisper of command. We wait until nightfall. Then we move. Nightfall. That was hours away. Hours of lying still while every bone screamed, while fear gnawed at our insides. Hours of wondering if our son was looking for us, or if he was already free to do whatever he had planned next. Do you know what it's like to play dad? To hold yourself still when your body aches for relief? It's torture. Every nerve is fire, every twitch a risk. But survival demanded silence. Survival demanded stillness. At some point, my mind drifted. Half conscious, I saw memories, Adam as a boy, holding my hand while crossing the street. His little wave on his first day of school. His teenage laughter while shooting hoops with his father in the backyard. How does that boy become this man? The memories warped. His laughter twisted into a cruel echo. His wave turned into a shove. That trusting hand became a force that betrayed. I jolted awake, gasping, fighting the panic. The day dragged. Shadows lengthened, the air cooled. Hunger clawed at me, thirst parched my throat. Yet louder than both was fear. Finally, as the sky bruised purple with dusk, Richard whispered, "Now." Moving felt like tearing open every wound at once. Inch by inch, we crawled. Each rock cut into my palms, each breath rattled with pain. But pain meant alive. Alive meant hope. We made it to a grove of trees, hidden from the cliff's view. Collapsing against a trunk, I let the tears fall, hot and unstoppable. Richard leaned against me, his voice ragged. "We can't go home." I turned to him, startled. But he shook his head. "If Adam wanted us gone, home isn't safe. We don't know who else is involved. We don't know anything." His words hit harder than the rocks had. He was right. If Adam had done this with help, then nothing familiar was safe anymore. Not our house, not our neighbors, maybe not even our family. That night, under a thin sliver of moon, we stumbled through the woods. Every sound made me flinch, the snap of a branch, the rustle of leaves, the cry of some unseen animal. Each noise felt like Adam's footsteps. Was he satisfied with our deaths? Or was he hunting? We found shelter in an abandoned shed, its roof sagging, walls leaning. But it was hidden. It was enough. Inside, Richard sank onto the dirt floor, his face pale, his arms swollen and wrong. I tore strips from my sleeve to bandage his wounds, though it was clumsy. In the faint moonlight, his eyes burned fierce despite the pain. We need answers. The thought terrified me. Answers meant facing Adam. Answers meant uncovering truths we might not want. But he was right. Why had Adam tried to kill us? Who had been with him? And what did he mean? What wish we had not survived? And then, a darker thought slithered in. If Adam believed we're dead, what would he do next? Unburdened, free? What if our deaths were not the end of his plan, but the beginning? I sat in that broken shed, heart shattered, body aching, mind racing. And I made a vow. We would survive. We would find the truth. And when we did, Adam would face the one thing he had not counted on, the parents who refused to stay dead. The parents survived by hiding in silence, realizing home is no longer safe. As night falls, they vow to uncover Adam's motive. But the bigger mystery lingers. Who was the second voice on the cliff? And what new darkness will Adam unleash, believing his parents are gone? The first night after the fall was the hardest. Not because of the bruises, not because of the ache in my ribs that flared with every shallow breath, but because silence itself had turned against us. Every creak of the forest, every snap of a twig, every brush of wind against the trees. Each one made me wonder if he was still out there, our son, watching, waiting, making sure we had not somehow survived the betrayal he would so carefully delivered. I wanted to believe it was all a mistake. I wanted to believe in accidents, in panic, in clumsy slips of judgment. But when I replayed the memory, the feel of his hand shoving against us, the sharp push, the way he never called out after we went over, it was clear. There was no panic in his eyes. No shock. Only resolve. Beside me, my husband whispered through clenched teeth, "Pretend we are dead." Those words kept circling in my mind, quilling tighter each time. Pretend. Pretend until we knew why. Pretend until we understood why our son, our only son, wanted us gone. When sunlight finally pierced through the canopy, painting the forest floor in sharp blades of light, we dared to move. I tore strips from my ruined dress, binding Richard's arm with hands that trembled, not from the pain, but from dread. We had not spoken much since the fall. Words felt fragile, like if we spoke them aloud, the truth would shatter us beyond repair. But as I tied the knot in the bandage, I finally whispered, "Why do you think he did it?" Richard's jaw tightened, his eyes avoiding mine. I have been asking myself the same thing since the moment I hit the ground. The silence that followed was worse than any answer. Later, as we tried to inch our way down the slope, Richard muttered, almost to himself, "Do you remember last month? When I asked him about those phone calls?" I frowned. "What phone calls?" His eyes flicked toward me, pale and hollow. "The ones he always took in the garage. Late at night." He said it was work, but I overheard him once. He was not talking about work. He was arguing. Someone was pressuring him. A shiver ran through me. Pressuring him for what? Richard's lips thinned. Money. I think it was about money. His words cracked something open in me. I remembered that dinner a week ago, the way Adam barely looked us in the eye. The way he snapped when I asked about his job, his shoulders stiff, his answers clipped. At the time, I told myself it was stress. I wanted to believe he was simply overworked. But now, with Richard's words echoing in my ears, a new thought slithered in. I whispered, barely able to say it out loud, "Do you think he needed us out of the way?" The words tasted like poison. Needed us out of the way? Who talks like that about their own child? Who even imagines such a thing? But the silence that followed cut deeper than denial. The more we spoke, the more memories surfaced. The missing documents from Richard's study, he had shrugged it off as carelessness, but what if Adam had taken them? The sudden trips Adam made, always with vague excuses. The way he flinched when I asked, half-jokingly, about our will. One by one, the pieces lined up like breadcrumbs, each one leading us closer to the edge of betrayal we had already been pushed from. I clenched my fists, nails biting into my palms. "How long has he been planning this?" Richard said. "Nothing. He didn't need to." His silence was an answer all on its own. What could drive a son to this? Was it greed, impatience for an inheritance? Was it fear, debts to people far darker than us? Or was it something else entirely, something buried so deep we never even saw the cracks forming? And then came a darker thought, one I tried to push away but couldn't. What if it was not just him? What if someone else had forced his hand? As these questions gnawed at me, I caught it. Movement. At the edge of the trees, just beyond the reach of light, a figure stood perfectly still. Not moving. Not speaking. Watching. My breath hitched, my chest tightening with panic. I grabbed Richard's arm. Or being watched. His head whipped around, eyes narrowing. But when he looked, the figure was gone. Vanished, like smoke dissolving in air. Had it been Adam? Had it been the person he spoke to on the cliff? Or was it someone else entirely, someone we didn't even know existed? The forest suddenly pressed in on me. The air thickened, the trees seemed to lean closer, as though the truth itself was stalking us, circling us, waiting for the right moment to strike. We didn't speak after that. Words felt dangerous. Thoughts felt dangerous. All that remained was dread. That night, as the crickets sang and shadows twisted against the walls of the shed, I lay awake, my mind refusing to rest. Pretending to be dead was no longer enough. We couldn't just hide and hope. We needed to know. We needed to peel back every secret Adam had kept from us, because whatever had driven him to that cliff, it was not finished with us yet. And one question repeated in my mind, over and over, until it sank into my bones. If he knew we survived, what would he do next? The parents connect Adam's betrayal to secret phone calls, money, and red flags they ignored. A shadowy figure watching from the forest deepens the mystery. Was it Adam, his accomplice, or someone else entirely? The silence of the night offers no answers. Only the promise of a darker truth waiting to be uncovered. The forest no longer felt like shelter. It felt like a stage, and we are unwilling actors trapped in a play written by someone else. Every rustle of leaves was footsteps. Every gust of wind was breath on the back of my neck. We are not hiding anymore. We're being hunted. On the third night after the fall, my husband shook me awake, his finger pressed to his lips. At first, I thought it was a dream. Then I heard it too, low, hurried voices threading through the trees. One of them was unmistakably his, Our son. They didn't make it, he whispered. No one could have survived that drop. My stomach twisted. Relief should have come with those words, but instead dread rooted deeper. He was not talking to himself. He was convincing someone. The second voice was harsher, older. You would better be right. Loose ends are dangerous. Loose ends. That's what we had become, loose ends in our own son's life. We pressed ourselves into the dirt, barely daring to breathe. My heart thundered so loudly I was certain they would hear it. They were starting to suspect, my son continued. Especially Dad. He asked too many questions. Beside me, my husband's jaw tightened. His silence told me everything. He had been right all along. Then it's good they were gone, the stranger said. You have done your part. Now focus on the rest. The rest? What rest? Before we could hear more, their footsteps retreated, swallowed by the forest. We stayed frozen until silence returned. Even then, neither of us moved for what felt like hours. At dawn, we found it. Half buried near the trees where they had stood the night before lay a satchel. My husband crouched, opening it with trembling hands. Inside, folded papers, crumpled receipts, and a sleek black phone with no lock. The papers came first, bank slips, loan notices, threatening letters. Every one of them carried our son's name. He was not just in trouble. He was drowning. But it was the phone. That cut deepest. Only one thread of text messages, with an unnamed number. They were old. They won't fight back. You will get what you are owed once it's done. Trust me, no one will miss them. My stomach turned. This was not desperation alone. It was a deal. A bargain struck with blood. We need to leave, I whispered. My voice cracked with terror. Now. Before he realizes we are alive. But my husband shook his head. His grip on the phone was iron. No. We need to know who's behind this. He is not acting alone. That man last night, he is pulling the strings. I wanted to scream at him, beg him to run. But some part of me knew he was right. If we fled blind, we would never truly escape. We would always be prey, waiting for the day our son, or whoever controlled him, came to finish the job. Still, fear not at me. And if he finds us first? My husband's voice was steady, but grim. Then we make sure we are not the ones being hunted anymore. That evening, as shadows stretched long across the ground, we heard footsteps again. Heavy. Deliberate. We pressed ourselves into a thicket, branches scratching our faces. Through the leaves, I saw him, our son. His face was pale, his eyes sharp, sweeping the undergrowth with a flashlight. The beam passed over us, lingering for a breathless moment. My chest burned as I held the air inside me. Then his voice broke the silence. Dad? Mom? The word mom slid into me like a blade. He said it softly, almost tenderly, like the boy I once tucked into bed. But tenderness was not what it was. It was bait. My husband's grip on my arm was unbreakable. We didn't move. The light shifted. His footsteps retreated. Only when the night swallowed him did I let the air explode from my lungs. We sat in silence, shaken but alive. Yet something in his voice would not leave me. Why call for us if he was certain we were dead? Unless he suspected. And if he suspected, then the hunt was not over. It was only beginning. That night, as fireflies blinked in the dark, my husband whispered the truth neither of us wanted to admit. He knows. Or at least, he is not sure. Which means it's us or him. And in that moment, I understood the cliff had not been the end. It was only the beginning. They say the cruelest betrayals don't come from enemies but from the people you love most. That truth weighed on us like a stone pressing into our chests. It was not strangers who had pushed us over that cliff. It was not nameless villains lurking in the dark. It was our son. Our flesh. our blood. The boy we had raised with lullabies and bedtime stories, scraped knees and birthday cakes. The boy whose first steps we cheered, whose graduation we cried through, whose wedding we toasted. And now, he hunted us like prey. "We can't keep hiding forever," my husband said, his voice raw, gravel dragged over stone. His hand trembled as he turned the black phone over and over, its screen catching fractured moonlight. I stared at him, my chest aching in ways words could never hold. "He is our son." His eyes, once so warm, now cold with resolve, snapped to mine. He stopped being our son the moment he tried to kill us. Silence fell between us, heavy, suffocating. I wanted to argue. To defend the boy I once carried in my arms, the boy whose laughter used to light our home. But then I remembered that night on the cliff, the push, the flashlight beam, the voice that sounded tender but rang hollow. Maybe my husband was right. Or maybe I just was not ready to admit it. We emptied the satchel again, desperate for answers. My husband spread the contents across the dirt like puzzle pieces. Eviction notices. Debt collectors. Red stamped threats from faceless corporations demanding payment. Each one carrying our son's name like a curse. But the phone was worse. Far worse. The messages we are not just instructions. They were shackles, chains that bound him to something monstrous. "You will have enough money to clear it all. No more debt. No more begging. But it has to be done. They know too much." I pressed my hand against my mouth, choking back a sob. We are not just obstacles in his life. We are not just burdens. We are liabilities. Liabilities to be erased. Even as the truth screamed at me, my mind betrayed me with softer images. Daniel of 5, running barefoot through the yard, his laughter ringing like bells. Daniel at 12, shyly handing me a Mother's Day card made from notebook paper, crooked hearts drawn in blue ink. Daniel at 18, trembling as he hugged me before leaving for college, whispering, "Don't worry, Mom. I will make you proud." That boy could not have planned this. That boy could not have traded us for debt and promises. And yet, here we are. "We have two choices," my husband said, his tone clipped and firm. "Run until he gives up, or stop this at the root." I looked at him, horrified. "You are saying..." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. "No," I whispered, shaking my head as if denial itself could save us. "I want. I cannot. He is my son." "He is our son," my husband snapped, his voice breaking like glass. "But right now, he is also our executioner. And unless we do something, he will finish what he started." Tears stung my eyes. He didn't want this any more than I did. But survival was a cruel teacher, twisting us into strangers, parents forced to question whether their child deserved mercy. That night, we pushed deeper into the woods, our fire reduced to fading embers. Every sound made my skin prickle, an owl's cry like a warning, the crunch of distant steps like bones breaking. And then, light. A flashlight beam cut through the dark. Closer this time. We froze. The beam swept across the ground, pausing, lingering. My chest tightened until I thought my ribs might snap. It stopped on the satchel we had hidden too hastily. My husband's hand clamped around mine. "Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't exist." Our son crouched. His fingers brushed the strap. He opened it. Empty. His face twisted. His jaw clenched. And in his eyes, I saw it, not fear. Not desperation. Rage. He knew. He knew someone had taken it. He knew someone was alive. Slowly, he turned, scanning the trees. And then, in a voice so soft it slid between the ribs like a blade, he whispered, "I know you are out there." The words dripped into the silence, heavier than any scream. My lungs burned. My husband's hand gripped mine until our bones ground together. We didn't move. We could not. Our son straightened. His flashlight swept one last time, then he turned and walked away. His steps were heavy, deliberate, each one a promise. We didn't move for long minutes after he vanished. Only then did I dare to breathe, the truth settling around us like falling ash. He was not just hunting anymore. He was certain. And soon, hiding would no longer be enough. That night, as fireflies pulsed like dying stars, my husband finally spoke the words neither of us wanted to face. "If we don't decide soon," he whispered, "the decision will be made for us." And I realized, with a hollow ache that seemed to hollow out my chest, he was right. Our son was not just searching. He was coming. And the next time, pretending to be dead would not save us. We didn't sleep that night. How could we? Every creak of the forest sounded like footsteps. Every brush of wind felt like a hand reaching out of the darkness, a reminder that danger was still near, watching, circling. By dawn, my husband and I are gaunt-eyed, sitting in silence, the weight of the satchel's secrets between us. We had seen the messages. We had seen the debts. We had pieced together just enough to know betrayal was not a moment. It had been brewing for months. But none of it prepared us for the truth we did face when our son came back. Because he would come back. That much was certain. The first sign was the birds. They scattered from the treetops all at once, a sudden flurry of wings cutting through the quiet. My stomach dropped. Then came the sound of boots crushing leaves. Slow. Purposeful. Getting closer. I grabbed my husband's hand. His skin was cold, clammy, but steady. And then, he was there. Our son stepped into the clearing, his flashlight dangling loosely at his side in the weak daylight. His face was drawn tight, eyes rimmed red, lips pressed into a thin line. He looked hollow. Not the boy we raised. Not even the man we thought we knew. "Enough," he said flatly, his voice carrying like a verdict. "I know you are here." We rose from our hiding spot, and for a split second, his face flickered, shock, relief, even something like fear. But then it hardened, his jaw locking back into resolve. "You should have stayed gone," he muttered. "Daniel," I whispered, my throat raw. "Why? Why would you do this to us?" He laughed bitterly, a sound that didn't belong in his mouth. "Why? Because you made it easy. Because all my life I was second to your rules, your expectations, your picture-perfect little world. And when it all came crashing down on me, when the debts piled up, when I had nowhere else to turn," his voice cracked, just for a heartbeat. "You would not understand. You never did." "That's not true," I said, tears burning hot. "We would have helped you. We would have given you everything." His eyes blazed, wet but furious. "That's the problem. I don't want your petty handouts. I wanted freedom. And they promised me I would have it, if we are out of the way." For a moment, my vision blurred with memory. I saw him at 5 years old, scraped knees pressed to mine as I kissed them better. I saw him at 10, holding up a messy drawing and grinning with missing teeth. I saw him at 18, tossing his graduation cap into the air. At 25, his nervous smile on his wedding day. And then I saw him here, fists clenched, rage twisting his features into something unrecognizable. How does a parent reconcile those images? How do you hold love and terror in the same breath? My husband stepped forward, voice low but steady. "Daniel, stop this. You still have a choice. You can put it all down and walk away. We will help you fix this mess." But Daniel only shook his head, tears brimming, voice rough. "It's too late." And then he pulled a knife. The world tilted. My knees nearly gave out. "Daniel, no," I choked, reaching toward him. For a flicker of a moment, he flinched, like my gesture cut deeper than any blade. For a heartbeat, I thought he might falter. That somewhere inside, our son still lived. But then his jaw set, and he lunged. It happened in flashes. My husband grappling with him, the knife glinting like a shard of lightning. My own scream splitting the air. The struggle was brutal, raw, messy. This was not some choreographed fight, it was survival, fueled by fear, grief, and instinct. At one point, the knife hovered inches from my husband's throat. I grabbed a fallen branch, swung with everything I had, my body trembling with rage and terror. The crack echoed through the clearing. Daniel stumbled, stunned, the knife slipping from his grip. We froze. My husband's chest heaved. My arms trembled. And Daniel's eyes, oh God, his eyes, burned with betrayal. You chose this, he rasped, voice a broken whisper, before collapsing. The forest went eerily still. No birds. No wind. Only the ragged sound of our breathing and the final thud of our son's body against the earth. I dropped the branch, my hands shaking violently, splinters biting my skin. My husband pulled me close, but his eyes were distant, hollow. We had not just survived. We had lost. Lost our son. Lost the illusion that love could save him. Lost the belief that family was unbreakable. We buried the satchel beneath stones, too heavy with its truths to carry further. We didn't tell anyone, not right away. How could we? Who would believe that our own child had tried to erase us? In town, people asked about Daniel. We said little. We let whispers grow, half-truths spin into something palatable. It was easier than confessing the horror. But at night, when the house was quiet, I heard my husband whispering into the darkness, "Pretend we are dead." And every time, I realized he was not warning me anymore. He was reminding himself. Because in a way, part of us had died on that cliff. I sit here now, writing these words, wondering what future generations will say if they ever learn the truth. Will they paint Daniel as a monster? Or will they see him as a man broken by desperation, manipulated by faceless promises? And what about us? Are we survivors, or cowards for pretending, for hiding, for burying him with silence? I don't know. What I do know is this: sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes the people you would give your life for will try to take it instead. And when that moment comes, when blood turns against blood, you are left with an impossible choice. To die, or to live with the unbearable weight of surviving. So I ask you, if it were your child standing before you, knife in hand, betrayal in their eyes, would you still see them as your child? Or would you do what we did? Would you survive?